You're listening to the On-Call Empath Show.
All right, guys, we are back for another episode of the On-Call Empath. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Jenny Baltazar. Hope I said that correctly.
Yes, you did.
Awesome. She is a transformational coach, writer, speaker, and your work definitely spoke to me. So I really wanted you to be a part of this podcast. Jenny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much, Raj.
Absolutely. So, as you know, like empaths, highly sensitive people, a lot of trauma victims that do tune in. One of the major things is, we cover here is, loss, trauma, and these are some things that you have experience with. And I just want you to kind of share to the audience how you became a transformational embodiment coach and what that entails.
Absolutely. So it was quite a journey. I have a background in counseling psychology and had worked in a variety of different healing modalities. So that was already my path. And then 3 years ago, I lost my husband in a traumatic way. I lost him to suicide. I have 3 young children, and it was, the most difficult experience of our lifetime. And hopefully we will not have anything as big as that ever happen to us again. But it was, it's something that I experienced a great transformation for myself through that. And I learned to utilize the tools and the things that I had in my toolkit to be able to process and to be able to move through that experience. And I shifted gears. I actually had a healing arts practice. I was a massage therapist for over 20 years and just decided that I wanted to go more in the route of working towards being a counselor and a coach. And transformational work really felt like it was a good fit for me. And my experience through grief and loss, we've all experienced, I think, at one time or another, some type of loss in our life. It's just part of being human, right? So to be able to offer that as my tools and my approach to healing is through this transformational coaching process. So with that, would you like me to share what transformational embodiment coaching looks like?
Absolutely. If you could just
Okay.
kind of give us an idea what that entails. And then I do want to kind of ask you more about like how you coped, especially with something that
Yeah.
serious, So yeah, feel
Yes.
free to let us know.
That will come through for sure. So I think, a big part of what I discovered for myself and what I recognize for others is that we all have this great human potential for courage and for strength, and whatever strength means to you. Me, it means vulnerability, really, and resilience and peacefulness. And there are a lot of these beautiful pieces of us that exist within ourselves.
Sure.
And so the transformational embodiment approach really looks at deeply listening to ourselves and being able to embrace the difficulty of something. So the trauma, the grief, the loss, whatever it might be. So for myself with my children, it was really looking at what we had been through, acknowledging that, first of all, recognizing it wasn't something that we were going to be able to go through and just pass through, and then we were going to move on with our lives.
Yeah.
And it was part of who we were and who we are today. And so I found that by really kind of being able to pause and acknowledge and to listen to each other, that and stepping into this, like really being able to uncover like authentically how we were feeling, embracing our emotions, all the difficult stuff, whether it was, the anger and the fear and the frustration and confusion, so many different feelings. So I think it was like a big part of our healing was to be able to allow ourselves, give us ourselves permission for all of that. And I was always an emotional person, but I think I became even more so after that. And I think for my children to witness me being able to express emotions, and they're each going through their own individual path, right? So with grief, because three different ages, three different humans. So so at times it was especially hard when one of them would be having a really hard time with their grief, big wave of frustration or overwhelm. We've had everything from nightmares to panic attacks to, some real challenging times. And we still do, but it's lessened a lot. But I think just allowing that and supporting each other and really doing a lot of healing together, coming together as a family, has made a big difference for us.
So that's very interesting because, I mean, especially after going through what you've been through, you coming out, kind of helping people as a transformation embodiment coach. What are the most important thing that you learned that you would like to share to our listeners about raising children, for one, and the trauma and loss, which is another, element to all of this, to all those people that are listening right now that might be a single parent who's maybe in the same position as you and just trying to make sense of it. What can you tell them, especially on this show? Like, because I wanted to do this specific episode for those people that are just trying to make sense of life after. Like, how do you move on? What do you do? Like, who do you go to? How do you kind of shift your life so you can get back on track?
Yeah. So there's so many pieces to this, but I would say, like with any trauma, there's of the utmost importance is to create an environment for yourself that feels whatever that looks like of safety. So emotionally feeling safe. So surrounding yourself with people that make you feel supported and loved and allow you to have the feelings that you need to have, which isn't necessarily like the easiest thing because people want you to be able to move on and it's hard for them to see you hurting and it's hard for them to see you struggling. So there's people you're surrounded for a time, but then that often dissipates. It's just natural that will happen. So continuing to let people really support you when they want to. I think especially after traumatic loss, I was unable to do very much of anything. I found myself in a place I wasn't driving. I felt very scared to go places. Just the whole world that as I knew it was very different. So letting people help you, who are there. I allowed people to do things for me that I never would have done in the past. So I was very blessed to have that. But I think, most of us have one or two or a few people that want to help us. So being open to that. And then just allowing yourself to go through whatever that process is for you, because it's very different for everyone. I think traumatic loss is, and especially as a widow myself, it's very different. Like I have other friends who've had loss but it was a very different experience for them. It wasn't this sudden loss. So finding your people, find other people who have gone through, traumatic loss, other widows, or just in general, people who have lost loved ones to suicide, like super, super important. I connected with support groups right away. Because you really you need that validation that what you're going through is not something crazy and that it's all okay. So
well, there's always something on the other side. And I mean, you made it this far and you've, became a coach. And would you say, like, after everything you've been through, it gets easier? Just kind of looking back, because I know that in the beginning there's like that process, that healing process where you're just trying to make sense of it. But now I speak to so many people that are that have been through kind of what you've been through, whether it's a trauma or a loss of a loved one, but they want to change their whole life around. And you guys that are listening out there, a lot of my clients, a lot of empaths, you guys want to do something and make meaning in your life. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on, because you are basically that example that I'm trying to portray out there, that even with grief, even if you've hit rock bottom, you're single parent, you've got other family like you have to take care of, and you still are pushing forward. So that's what I want to kind of like put out there, is that it can be done and you're doing it. And so
Mhm.
that's a very, not, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, but you're here on the show kind of explaining that it is possible. And
Yeah.
so I mean, definitely I commend you for being vulnerable to come on here and share your personal story. But for those that are listening out there right now, would you say, like, one single thing that really helped you? Like, some people use faith, some people they have other things that they lean on. What was like the single thing for you that kind of brought you to a path of, okay, now I got to work on myself and become a coach, because I know that's my purpose? Like, what made
Yeah.
you do that? Why? What was your why?
Yeah. I mean, I at this point, I feel like I wouldn't want to do anything else. Like I
Mhm,
wanted to be able to reach more people with this message, to be able to say that not only can you can get through this difficult thing. What you said was, you asked if it was, um if it if it feels, if it gets better, like if it feels less pain. I think it
mhm,
doesn't necessarily change that much, honestly, but I think that the periods of time that you go through these like waves of trauma and just
mhm,
difficulty become easier in some way, because you develop more resilience around it, more tools.
mhm,
So writing has been a tool for me. I also do yoga. I practice yoga. Meditation is, all of these like kind of like very embodied activities.
mhm,
Creativity is super important. So I, have done that with my children. I've done it for myself. Um, so my why is certainly like my kids. My kids are definitely my inspiration to um, be able to create a better tomorrow for them, despite having gone through, or maybe because they went through this. I feel like this
mhm,
difficult experience will help them to
mhm.
transform into their greatest
Yeah,
potential. So
yeah. So one thing I just want to just point out, like, I was going through your Instagram, and there was this post that you made a while back, and I just kind of want to read, where it says, may all your broken pieces, which you feel so scattered now, to be resembled into a Masonic of beauty. May your healing reveal the art of who you are. And
mm,
that really kind of hit me hard. And yeah, like, for all of you guys that are out there that may have given up or been through like severe loss, um, you know, this is finding your tribe, finding your people, finding the right group like you did.
yeah,
That's like the first step, is trying to find and fit in. Don't try to isolate yourself, or try to look out for a coach, or somebody that gets it,
yeah,
and lean on that. So, but
absolutely.
yeah, so thank you so much for coming on this podcast. But before we take off, could you just tell the audience what you're working on and where we can find you?
Absolutely. I am currently doing a coaching program, a 3-month one-on-one coaching program.
Mhm,
So you can definitely reach out to me for private coaching. And then I'm actually going to be speaking at the Global Grief Conference on April 30th, the end of April. It's a Saturday. It's a virtual live event. It will be on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm doing a workshop. It's a free live workshop on raising children through trauma and grief. I believe it's at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So you can catch me there. And I'm also on all of the social media. So feel free to reach out to me, or wildblossomcoaching.com.
all right. Well, yeah, definitely inspiration. Thank you for coming on this podcast. You're always welcome back. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Raj. It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. All the links are going to be in the bio below. So guys, check her out. Also, if you can subscribe to this channel, it definitely helps me out. Leave a review and stay tuned for a lot more guests coming on. And always, guys, keep moving forward. With that said, we are out.